Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Make sure to visit our website and subscribe to our YouTube channel. In today's podcast, I wanted to discuss a press release that recently came out with regards to KPMG's leadership team. Now, when I first saw it, I really didn't pay any attention to it because it's just a PR move by KPMG, but I wanted to go back and look over it, and it's regards to KPMG's leadership team in the United States. KPMG announced a new leadership team in the United States, and this is because they recently announced the new U.S. CEO, Paul Knopp, and from what it looks like, he's taking over now, and he wanted to change the leadership team, obviously because he's a new CEO, and he probably wants his people under him. But they took this time in this leadership change at KPMG to make it seem like they're rebranding themselves and a whole bunch of things are going to change, which I don't think they are, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But they named a new audit, tax, and advisory leadership team, and they also labeled new heads of growth and operations. And this new leadership team was formed by the new U.S. CEO, Paul Knopp, as I said before, and the Deputy Chair and Chief Operating Officer, Laura Nowinski. And the new leaders in these separate divisions are going to be Carl Carande, who is continuing as Vice Chair of Advisory, Greg Engel, who will take over for Jeff Lesage as the head of U.S. Tax, and Scott Flynn, who will succeed Frank Castle as Vice Chair of Audit. Tandra Jackson has been named the new Vice Chair of Strategy and Growth, and Will Williams will be taking over for Laura Nowinski as the new head of Operations. And there are also 4 other people that will continue in their previous leadership roles. And that is Darren Burton, who will be the Vice Chair of Human Resources, Lisa Madden, who will be the Vice Chair of Risk Management, Tanya Robinson, who will be the Vice Chair and General Counsel of Legal, Regulatory, and Compliance, and Claudia Sarin will be the Vice Chair of Culture. And the firm is trying to improve its reputation after recent scandals. You probably know a lot of these. Carillion is one that's in the UK, obviously not in the US. And the US firm had its own regulatory issues where the head of their audit leadership tipped off audit partners that the PCAOB was going to be doing PCAOB inspections so that those audit partners could fix their files and be prepared for PCAOB inspections. And also, if you remember, KPMG partners were recently caught cheating on tests, and these were internal tests. So KPMG has a pretty long history of bad things that have been happening over the past few years, not only in the US, but globally. And so this is a move to try and help that. And KPMG had the following to say: our management team will harness the talents and capabilities of the entire firm to empower our clients and our people to confidently meet today's challenges and thrive in the future. We will be nimble and agile in our execution and bold in our thinking. We're optimistic about our opportunities, and we remain committed to instilling trust with stakeholders. As we begin to write a new chapter for our firm, one that is built on integrity, growth, and execution, we will differentiate ourselves in the market by quality of our people and our services and the strength of culture and values. And one thing I would say about this statement they made is make note of what the leadership team said here and bring it up in your interviews, or look at it again and before you do your interviews and try to bring it up in your interviews. Maybe there's something about it that really hits you and you can talk about it in an interview. I mean, this is things that the leadership team are saying, and they're trying to rebrand themselves. So if you take little snippets out of this and bring it up in your interview, it's really going to set yourself apart, because not many people look at these type of things. Because what KPMG is doing here is they're really hoping that their clients look at this and that their clients are really impressed by all these people they're putting forward. But the thing that they don't really talk about is these people's experience and anything like that. And they're trying to improve their image, but I don't think they do a good job, because you have all these new leaders, these vice chairs. Like, what is a vice chair? Nobody knows. Nobody knows the vice chair of these weird groups that they have. I mean, things make sense like audit, tax, and advisory, but all these other positions they have seem kind of meaningless. and just seem a reason to increase people's salary. And one thing notably missing is some kind of ethical chairman. And to me, that person, they needed to name somebody in charge of ethics, or somebody in charge of something similar, like improving values or improving ethics or strong ethics. And I know that's probably supposed to be the general counsel and the regulatory, but people don't know that. And that person should really be highlighted, especially for KPMG, because KPMG, and I know this might not be popular, but KPMG has the most issues, and they've had the most issues, and they're always in the news. All the accounting firms have issues, but KPMG always has the most, and they always have like the most unethical behavior. And from my experience too, they're the most unethical. And that's just my experience, my opinion. But it's also just look at the news and analyze it for yourself. So they do all this write-up, and they say all these things of, this meaningless terms in the PR thing about harnessing talents and capabilities and optimistic about your opportunities. And they're instilling trust with stakeholders. Well, you're not going to instill trust with stakeholders, and you're not going to be able to take opportunities if you're constantly in the headlines. And the way you avoid that is you have to rethink your leadership team. You have to come up with a new approach to ethics and how you're going to show people that you're ethical. And it's not only with stakeholders, doesn't only mean clients. Like, your regulators have to believe that you're going to be ethical, because if there's a regulator out there that wants to go after an accounting firm, they're going to go after KPMG first because they're the weak link. This PR release doesn't really instill confidence in me, and it doesn't show me that KPMG has changed. And another thing I've noticed is a lot of these people were here during all these scandals, and they were audit partners, or they were partners when these scandals were taking place, and they're still here, and they're just moving up in leadership. So you have to question what's really going to change. Another thing that was in this release is that KPMG announced their Accelerate 2025 plan, and they announced this previously. And this is their diversity measure. As all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, they want to have a plan for diversity similar to the other big four accounting firms, what they're doing right now. And I'll probably cover that in another podcast. So basically, what the takeaway from here is that KPMG has a new leadership team under Paul Knopp. They're allowing him to have his own people. And they put a lot of weight on their own shoulders here, because they're saying they're changing their image and they're going to be better. And let's see if it really happens. But it's not only an ethical thing. The ethic things is big for KPMG, but the other thing that we have to take a look at after they're saying all these really good things is, will it show up in the financials? Will their revenue growth? They named new heads of strategy and growth, and I'm sure that that's because they're always lagging behind and their growth is not that good in the U.S. So we'll have to see where these measures can actually show up in their financials. That's the update for today. To get more updates, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.